10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Join me next time when I review the cult classic Kingdom Hearts for the Vcast. Okay, all jokes aside, Kingdom Hearts 2 is a very special game to me. It's the game that made me feel like a true gamer. Whatever that even means. So yeah, this will totally be an unbiased review. Oh yeah, and if I reach 1k subs, I'll talk about the Vcast game for real. Let's get on with it. Kingdom Hearts 2 is the third installment in the Kingdom Hearts series, coming after Chain of Memories. It is also the second mainline game, if you couldn't tell from the really cool logo. This game has two different releases as well, like the first Kingdom Hearts. There was the first release and the final mix release. Just like the first Kingdom Hearts, it was only released in Japan. We didn't get it until Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD Remix, as well as Kingdom Hearts 2.5 HD Remix on the PS3, which was later re-released for the PS4 as Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 HD Remix, and then re-released once again for the PS4 as the Story So Far collection, which was also bundled with the Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, and I am fucking done! Namora! I have no idea why they pick names like this. It just sounds so off. Oh hey, did you get Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, Birth by 358 over 2 Memories, 3 Days Re-Remix, Key and Knuckles, featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series? Anyways, in this review, we will be focusing on Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which is in my opinion revolutionary when it comes to action RPG titles. So, what's so good about this version of Kingdom Hearts 2, you ask? Well, it adds and changes many things from the original version. It adds a new difficulty mode called Critical, new story cutscenes, a new secret movie, theater mode, a new drive form called Limit Form, a collectathon where there are puzzle pieces scattered around the game to collect and complete puzzles out of, mini games known as the Mushroom 13, 20 new bosses, which in its own right is mind-blowing, new equipment, and a brand new area to the game. I'll go into detail about these in their respective sections of the video, but yeah, it adds so much juicy content that it makes every other re-release look bad. Onto writing, and it's an absolute mess, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't the most enjoyable mess I've experienced. I've always described Kingdom Hearts 2's writing as well as other entries as junk food. What I mean by that is, it's really not good for you, but goddamn is that chicken burger good. So you just keep eating more and more of it, like non-stop. Pretty much this series is killing the remaining brain cells I have. These sunglasses I wear are to hide the apparent damage. It's technically worse than the first game's writing, but I love it so much more. It just never bores me. Part of why I got hooked into this game when I was a kid was the first couple hours of the game. They are perfect. It starts off with our best boy protagonist. Who the hell is this? Where's Sora? Where's Donald? More importantly, where's Goofy? This guy is Roxas, and definitely isn't Sora. Oh boy. We don't actually get told who this dude actually is until a later game, so for now he just feels like a stranger. And I was very confused. Sora's on the box art, so who's this wanker? Well, we start to find out more about him as we play. He and his friends are on the last week of summer vacation and do stuff like participate in fights with giant blue sticks. You know, the usual. As we progress through the week, strange things occur, but only to Roxas. When I was a kid, I was real scared of these little glitches that would happen. We start to see familiar faces from Chain of Memories as well, like Naminé and Axel. Obviously, I had no clue who these people with anime hair were, so I was even more confused. Looking at it now, and it's honestly really cool. I like how they build Roxas as a character in this game, and in just a couple hours, we start to get attached to him. He starts to lose it, screaming at no one, smashing a computer, fighting with 2 Keyblades, which was still and still is the coolest shit ever, and then...
Looks like my summer vacation is over.
This is probably still the most impactful scene in the whole series for me. Even as a kid, it hit hard. I loved my vacations. It was a time where I could hang out with my cousins in a much simpler time. And also play this game as well. I was able to do all this without a care in the world. Going back to school after vacation was the worst, and I'm sure many of you feel that way. And now it hits even harder. I graduated from high school less than a month ago, and those simple times have vanished. Just like Roxas, I lost those simple times, hanging out with my friends, without a care in the world. They were magical days. So yeah, whenever I get to this scene in the game, I get really emotional. I became fully invested in Roxas, and holy shit, we can play as Sora now. He is so much smoother to play as. Donald is back. Goofy! I just love how they did this segment of the game. Roxas is a very rough character to play as and doesn't feel all too smooth. So then playing as Sora feels so good. He moves much better, the controls are tighter and more responsive. It's just so good. It really makes you feel like Sora and not just a copy-paste of Roxas's base moveset. It feels like the original trio are back and they sound just as excited as me. Okay, so after Chain of Memories, Sora was in a pod for like a year. He, Donald and Goofy lost their memories of that game completely, which is fine since I never even knew it existed either. This works well with the rest of the game, since Sora meets characters he has previously met like Axel, and he has no idea who he is, nor did I. The rest of the game is similar to the first in terms of go to Disney Worlds and vanquish Heartless while story moments play out. What I like more about this game though is that the Disney Worlds don't completely feel like side quests. We get a lot of story moments related to Organization 13, who are the main baddies of the game, and it's really cool to see them interact with Disney characters. And they also mess around with Sora a lot, which was like the best part of Chain of Memories. We get to see old faces and new in this game, and it's just so enjoyable. The end section of the game is where the game just transforms into this insane climax with huge stakes and really cool moments. Yeah, the story can get convoluted, and yeah, it's kinda silly, but it's oozing with charm and is super satisfying. Overall, the writing of Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorites in the game and absolutely satisfying. Moving on to the sound design, and it has one of the best in any game I've played. Yoko Shimomura delivers her best soundtrack to date with some of the greatest pieces in video game history. There's just some hidden magic to her music that no other person can capture. It might be the excessive use of violin, especially after this game, or the catchy drum beats. Here's an example of one of my favorite tracks in the game. All the themes for the Disney worlds, the battle themes, the emotional music, the final world in general, just so damn good. There isn't much else to say about the soundtrack other than it's fantastic. And it doesn't just end there for sound design. The sound effects are satisfying as hell. Each time I hit an enemy, I can hear the impact. Each time I get an item or open a chest, there's a nice unique jingle to it. And the rest of the sound effects are just as good. I've just about memorized all of them, which is a little weird, but it's fine, I say. The voice acting is the best in the series, hands down. We have iconic voices done by Quentin Flynn, Jesse McCartney, David Gallagher, and Paul St. Peter. My god, is he good. He voices Xemnas in this game, and he has such a deep and manipulative voice.
Indeed. I was wondering, who would dare interfere with my Kingdom Hearts? And look, here you all are. How convenient for me.
Overall, the sound design of this game is phenomenal, enough said. Graphics wise, it's the same as the last two entries, but with better art direction in some areas. While I feel in most cases Kingdom Hearts 1 has better looking worlds, Kingdom Hearts 2 has its fair share of great worlds as well. Mostly the original ones though. Twilight Town, Hollow Bastion, and The World That Never Was are all amazing looking. They are filled to the brim with great design, and I just can't get enough of them. The World That Never Was is my favorite world in the franchise just because it looks like a modern dystopia. The new character designs for both newcomers and returns look amazing. This is personally my favorite design of Sora. It looks slick, and he's not wearing a onesie this time around. Oh my god. And the new designs for the Final Fantasy characters look nice. They look even better than Kingdom Hearts 1, and they look like their game counterpart. The Disney characters look great as well, aside from some minor problems. Okay, I like Pirates of the Caribbean, but this just looks off. They didn't have the right technology for it to look good, so it just feels like I'm looking at a cartoon version of Johnny Depp. Other than that, the character designs for the Organization 13 look really good. As mentioned in my Rechain of Memories review, they all have this stylish coat that justifies the fact that they are all wearing the same outfit. and the characters themselves have their own distinct look and have distinct personalities, making for very colourful and enjoyable characters all around. Overall, the graphics of this game is unique and adds a lot to the style of the game. Here's where I kiss the game's ass the most. The gameplay. I have so much fun with the gameplay of this that I never want to let it go. It has so much to offer. In terms of combat, it has great attacks to experiment with, combo modifiers, movement abilities, great use of magic, although Reflect is just a tiny bit broken, summons, finisher commands, and last but definitely not least, Drive Forms. Drive Forms are my favorite part of the game's combat. There are 6 total forms. They all have their own use. For example, Valor is meant for more offensive play while Wisdom is meant for more defensive, and they all have their own unique abilities. Valor has a high jump and Wisdom has a quick dash. As you level up these forms more and more, you get to use these abilities in your base form, which is really cool. The new form added via Final Mix, called Limit Form, is really cool. It compiles the best moves of KH1 Sora and makes for some awesome combos. It's probably the form I use the most. There's also a form that punishes you if you use forms too much. This is called Anti-Form, and holy shit, what have they done to my boy?
This is the thing of nightmares.
Yeah, this really scared me as a kid, especially since the game tells you nothing about it. I feel it's a little whack that they didn't tell you anything about this or how it works. You just kinda have to get it on your own. The cool thing is that it isn't completely random and is based off a counter. The amount of times you use Drive Forms, the higher the chance of getting the form, which is nice so that you don't spam it too much, because using this thing is hell. No magic, floaty combos, and no party members. If playing on critical, you're basically already dead. Speaking of critical mode, let's talk about it. I love this game mode. It has the right amount of challenge as well as the right amount of balance. It's so much fun.
Getting my ass kicked has never felt better.
I won't go into much detail about critical, but a couple things need to be said. What the difficulty does is cut the party's health in half, and also Sora has less MP. But what it also does is give Sora a 25% boost in attacks, and you start off with more AP and gain more on the way. You also start with really useful bonus abilities. It's just really fun to mess around with. You want to know what else is so good about the gameplay? The 20 extra bosses.
What the fuck?
Oh my god, they just threw in so many bosses into the Final Mix version of this game. And most of them are really good. The secret boss especially. I don't know who decided to do this at Square, but give them a medal. This shit is good. Now, onto the meh and bad parts of the gameplay. Gummy ship missions are back and are better than ever. By that I mean they still kinda suck.
Oh man, I love playing Star Fox in my action RPG.
It's a vast improvement from the first games, but it's still pretty boring. The music's nice though, so it helps pass the time. Other than that, the party members. They're really useless. The game is essentially just Sora and that's it. The party members have really bad AI, and that's putting it lightly. Donald sometimes heals, and Goofy does some damage on lower difficulties. But if you're playing on critical mode, you might as well just forget about them. They die faster than they're alive, it's insane. Oh yeah, and the magic spell Reflect is pretty broken. What the spell does is, it surrounds you with a barrier of sorts, and the damage done to you while that spell is used gets reflected at the enemies in range. It's honestly the only magic spell I use other than some needed for some boss fights. There's also other stuff like the Mushroom 13, which are a compilation of minigames. You get rewards from them, and if you complete all of them you get a Keyblade and a crown on your head, which is really cool looking, and I wish they brought it back for later games. Overall, the gameplay of this game is phenomenal, and has one of the best systems in any game I've played. Moving on to the level design, and it's good, but nothing amazing. Most of the worlds in this game feel flat compared to KH1. Doesn't offer nearly as much puzzles as it. It has some neat ideas like the Mushroom 13 as well as the puzzle pieces, but it's nowhere near as good as how KH1 handled it. The treasure chest locations in this game are so simple to find and don't offer much of a challenge. We have the movement abilities we get from leveling up forms known as growth abilities, so why didn't they utilize it? And you can't say, oh, you need them for puzzle pieces. Yeah, we did, but puzzle pieces were only added via Final Mix. Growth abilities were in the base game and were barely used outside of combat. The new area in Final Mix uses these abilities well, so why didn't they do that with the rest of the game? It feels pretty wasted in my opinion, and I don't really have much else to say about it. The level design is overall good, but it's disappointing in some aspects.
Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is the best game I've ever played. It has so many amazing ideas and surprises me with how ahead of its time it was. Its story is cheesy but satisfying, its sound design is simply amazing, the graphics are great, and the gameplay is on another level. but it also still holds some problems. Gummy missions are still boring, AI is shit, Reflector is a bit broken, and the level design is disappointing, to say the least. Even still, I love this game. It isn't a perfect game or anything, but it's better than everything else I've played to date. My final score for this game is a 10 out of 10. Fuck this game!